Alleluia, Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Alleluia. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whether this is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or some other day of the week. Wherever you are and whenever you are choosing to engage with this message for Easter Day, I am pleased that you have chosen to be here, and I am praying for each one of you this day. Of all the strangeness of this past week, and it has been a very unusual journey with Jesus through Holy Week, one of the most challenging aspects for me personally has been reaching this Easter Day in the knowledge that I will not be in the church declaring that Jesus is alive with all of you. But even though we are unable to be together on this most significant day in the Christian faith, I know that whenever someone says, Alleluia, Christ is risen, somebody somewhere will respond, He is risen indeed, Alleluia. And even if they do not make that response, the truth is that Jesus is still risen today. But it is hard to know where to begin today. How do we speak a message of the hope of resurrection at a time when our worldly experience offers us the despair and disappointment of Good Friday, or the dark hopelessness of Holy Saturday? How do we identify hope and find reasons for celebration at a time when we realise that coronavirus is impacting our acquaintances, our friends, and our families? In the past week, we have seen the first cases of COVID-19 identified in Highbridge. In this past week, I have heard of friends and family members from our congregation who are unwell due to coronavirus. And I know that some of you know people who have died as a consequence of coronavirus. What has, until this point, been something that is affecting other people has become something that is impacting our lives in an incredibly deep way. Things are tough. It is hard. It hurts. This is our shared reality now. It is okay to speak it out and to wonder where God is. As ever, I think our gospel reading has some very helpful insights into how we might be people of resurrection hope at this time. It comes from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 28, verses 1 to 10. I'll share it with you now. After the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And suddenly there was a great earthquake. For an angel of the Lord descending from heaven came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing white as snow. For fear of him, the guards shook and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid. I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has been raised as he said. Come, see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has been raised from the dead, and indeed he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him. This is my message for you." So they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy, and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." And they came to him, took hold of his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." There is potentially something profound about celebrating Easter Day with the doors of the church building firmly closed. Indeed, like me, some of you may have found yourself frustrated by the absence of our church building. Our physical experience of sharing in services, walking the journey with Jesus together, and celebrating his resurrection with one another has been taken away from us. But while this may have impacted our experience of the events of the past week, I wonder if actually it has drawn us closer to the experience of the first disciples, Jesus' friends, as they encountered the reality of the closed tomb. For Mary and Mary, there was no way in. The darkness was powerful. Jesus, their friend, was dead, inaccessible, unreachable, gone. As Mary Magdalene and, as Matthew describes her, the other Mary, went to the tomb, they found it firmly closed. There was no way for them to move the stone. There was nothing they could do. It needed the power and intervention of God to move the stone away. Now, there are two things about this that strike me. Firstly, it was the power of God that made this possible. This could not have been achieved by human ingenuity alone. But while the power of God made it possible, Mary and Mary needed to be there. They are key participants in what unfolds. Without their presence, the resurrection power of God could not have been made visible to others. While the power of God will most definitely be at work in the coming days and weeks in our world, it needs people like you and I to be Mary and Mary, to draw people's attention to God's powerful work in our world. Because without that, God's work will go on unseen. Twice in these 10 verses in which Matthew communicates Jesus' resurrection, in verse 5 and verse 10, we hear the words, "Do not be afraid." On the first occasion, it is shared by the angel. On the second, the words are shared by Jesus himself. Do not be afraid. We are living at a time where we are fearful. We fear for ourselves. We fear for our families. We fear for our friends. So to hear these words, "Do not be afraid," within the story of Jesus' powerful resurrection, the story that is at the heart of Christian hope, that is profound and deeply moving. Do not be afraid. There is hope. And there are signs of hope, like the sunshine and the flowers that brighten our days of isolation at the moment. The diligent and faithful way staff in our NHS continue to work, placing themselves in danger to care for those who so desperately need them. There is hope in the applause they are receiving each week, which draws us together even though we are physically apart. There is hope in the way that communities are drawing together to support those who are unwell or shielding, particularly here in Highbridge and Burnham. This hope is inspirational. This week, as a family, we received the news that my dad, who suffered with bowel cancer 5 years ago, is fortunate enough to no longer need an annual colonoscopy. Dad's cancer has gone. That is a reason for us as a family to celebrate, even though we know that the story of cancer for so many others unfolds in such a different way. There are signs of hope if we are able to look for them. And what is also so profound are those words that we hear in verse 8. So they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy. I wonder if sometimes we forget that it is possible to experience fear and great joy simultaneously. Jesus is alive. This is the fantastic news that Mary and Mary have heard and seen, but it also causes them great fear. The resurrection of Jesus can still be good news, even if we are afraid today. Even if we are fearful for ourselves, for our family, and for our friends. The angel tells Mary and Mary to go quickly and tell his disciples. This call on these two women to share the news is a call to us today too. This is so significant that it needs to be shared with others. We have to share our hope in the resurrection, the hope at the heart of our faith with others. But the way we share our faith and our hope is important, particularly and especially at this time. While our calendar will tell us that today is Easter Day, our circumstances and our lived reality may well be telling us, or those around us, that we are still in the devastation of Good Friday or the darkness of Holy Saturday. We need to be gentle and allow ourselves to be wherever we need to be on this timeline. But as Christians, we must try to hold on to the hope that Jesus brings through the resurrection. When I am privileged to conduct a funeral service, I usually use a prayer that I found written by Tess Ward, which she's written particularly for someone who's died young. But I use this prayer regularly myself because I feel that it captures so much of what I am striving to communicate here about hope. So I will close my talk with this. May God be a bright flame before you, a guiding star to lighten your darkness. May God smooth the way for you, and when it is hard to see, lead you with outstretched arm. May God shield you and surround you. Hold your sorrows, wipe your tears, and when you are ready, lift your faces and walk with you into the light of a new day. Amen.